Basic Control, baby. Today we're gonna get in your minds. We're gonna get in real deep.
Welcome to Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically giving the control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka The Boss, writing on social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host, Adrian, where can people find you?
So we got a little bit of a change. It's at ADK Lives.
ADK Lives on Twitter. Awesome.
Bouncing off the fucking internet. Letters ADK.
Follow us at Facebook at Poppycast Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack, or download and stream on Audio Mac and SoundCloud. Email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you would like to see addressed on the show. First, we'll get into our icebreakers, our coverage, and opinions on current events. Moving then into our main topic today being question your morality. Finally spilling out into the hypothetical section where we let loose, crack open our creative sides, and dig into the rabbit hole. I'm gonna have to change your icon. 80K Lives now. That's dope.
Yeah. Shit, man. I switched the two handles between Science Media and my main account.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's fine.
Just for easier for people to find me instead of a bunch of company info.
Yeah. I think that's a good move. But now I got work to do. But how are you though?
I'm alright, man. It's hot. It's fucking hot. It's blazing hip hop and R&B. 95.7 in California, and I'm trying to die.
Yeah.
Stay cool, everybody. Stay water refreshed. And you're out in Virginia too. Is it hot out there?
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to die too. But it's, we got some of the runoff from Harvey, so we got a little bit of rain and things like that. It was raining all yesterday. It's probably gonna rain some more today, but that's fine. Everyone in America and around the world are well aware of this hurricane going down right now, Hurricane Harvey. It's taken some lives. It's destroyed people's lives in other ways other than killing them. People's homes are underwater, son. They got all types of relief efforts. You got Drake donating I think $500,000 to relief efforts. You got Beyonce, some.
Yeah, he's got a place in Houston somewhere. I'm sure Beyonce's from Houston.
Yeah,
their award shout out.
Woo.
Yeah, so apparently Pimp C's wife came out and she said that the UGK archives got destroyed by Hurricane Harvey because I guess they were keeping him in a facility or somewhere safe underground. I don't know.
Balls.
But, yeah.
Rest in peace to Pimp C. Yes. Now it's
rest in peace, Pimp C. But
her stuff should have been on. It should have been on the cloud though. Like, to be honest, at this point,
it should have been on wax. Yeah, I was like, I hope Bun B and them digitize most of those discs.
Nah,
because I know
old heads, son.
They.
A lot of older people don't really like upload like that when it, especially something sensitive that they don't want quote unquote leaked. They fearful of like certain leaks and things like that. So a lot of the older cats, no matter what it is, they probably won't put it in no Dropbox or no type of mega storage situation going on, or have it archived in a digital format like USBs and things like that where you can easily move it. They probably got the records and all that just stacked up like
in the mini disc.
That's a shame though,
because that's an entire catalog of music, man. And I've been talking about catalogs of music lately. This is kind of connected to that, but like Prince, for instance, like his catalog of music is more valuable than he personally as a person. So those archives was like, we talk about legacy, money. That's money. That's money. That's leverage. That's a lot of things. That's your creative work. That's your life. Everything that person lived for.
Yeah.
So
you got some other people out here during Hurricane Harvey, your boy Jake Paul from I think he's like this YouTube sensation guy. So you got Jake Paul out here posting videos about how he's helping animals and stuff survive the hurricane and stuff. But it's like, it's framed in a certain way where like, yeah, I'm using my fame to try to save animals. Like, it's a weird thing. But, you know, as long as people are helping, I don't care if you got some type of weird motive. As long as somebody helping out here, I don't really got no huge problem with it. But I do kind of see like a lot of people like using this as like, yeah, Hurricane Harvey, like I'm gonna take advantage of this situation and try to, you know, extend my brand.
I'm ready for it. Deep breath, fill up the void. I'm gonna go to the day SF Comic Con. I'm gonna go today. I think Neil Adams was there, Summer Glau. So if any of you guys are convention goers and you went to SF Comic Con this weekend or Anime Con or anything like that, it'd be good to let us know. And I'm anxious to hear about your adventures con going, because I have a real distinct, I guess, I compartmentalize my convention experiences because there's behind the table and there's in front of the table.
Mm-hmm.
So like we were talking earlier about, I guess it's like your morality, right? We're going to get into that. But when people go and do certain things just to kind of leverage their fame or leverage certain aspects of their career, and you see these people at these conventions just trying to maximize their social, that's just weird.
I do see a lot of people. I mean, it's sort of like one of those things, like sort of like leveraging fame, not really on the morality part. But there's a lot of people who, women especially, who be on like Instagram and like, okay, well, you say you're promoting what do you call it, tummy tea or whatever, but like you got your titties out, and like this is like a whole situation now. Like, okay, this is on and popping. I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're really doing here. I don't know, like, even if you're not selling anything, like I've seen like so many like women on the gram just like flaunting like a lot of things. Like you'll overtly be trying to like thirst trap people, and like it's weird. It's like weird because I always wonder like what are you thinking about, like when you're posing in this uncomfortable position, trying to like, I don't know, like titillate people? Is that like what this is? Like what is this? Like, well, how do you rationalize this? Like, how do you what is your daily life like? Do you take like endless like photos trying to like what is that like a sign of, like psychologically, when you get down to it? Like what do you want?
We were walking down the street yesterday, and these girls were in the car in their vehicle, and the passenger girl was like, she had the camera aimed aggressively at herself. Like she was aimed, and hear my words, she aimed the camera aggressively at herself.
Wow. Twisting,
turning the camera to get that angle. And like we have 90s comics where the women are drawn and where their ass and tits are in the frame at the same time, so it looks like proportionist.
Yeah.
And now women are actually striving to do this at comic conventions.
Yeah, it's wild. And in real life too, like just like in photographs, they want. I was like, I wonder, like, is some of these things, like, I wonder if they're like learned, or like is this like a new instinctual thing that like they all do? Like, is there like a school that teaches you how to like? Because there's like, all right, there's certain poses. I don't want y'all to get mad at me, but like there's certain poses that y'all do as women. There's like, you know, more power to you, but like there's certain poses that you do that like I'm wondering, like, why do you do this? Like, tell me if you've seen this one. So they'll like turn, you know, to the side, right or left, it doesn't matter, but they'll be looking at the camera, but like one foot will be like sort of like up, like hovering a little bit, and it, like sort of like I want to use the ballet term, but like it's sort of like pointed, and like the other one will be down. It was like, so you're kind of like on your tippy toes a little bit, but like one foot will like be back. I'm like, what is this? Like, whoa. Like, did someone teach you this pose? Like, why are you doing this? Like, it's not. Nobody ever questions it because everybody does it. But you're like, what is this? Like, why is this like a thing? There's several. Like, if you look at any photo, just you don't even have to search very hard. You'll find this pose everywhere. And you're just like, why? Like, it's just several joints like that where I'm like, what is going on? Like, is this like a thing that like because you see it a lot you start doing it, or like did you have to practice, or somebody telling you to do this? Is this like a secret meeting in like the bathroom where you like, girl, I seen a photo that you posted yesterday and you wasn't doing the foot thing, you need to start getting hit with the foot thing? Like,
right?
I've been in photographs with women will like, they'll do that, they'll have like the one foot up, and I'm like, okay, well
that's and I hate to psychoanalyze people, but we said it a couple times ago, like a couple shows ago, maybe, that we've already figured out the book on how people are thousands of years ago, right? So
yeah,
all this shit is just regurgitated in some form, whether she saw it or online. It's like the money phone and shit like that. We mimetically copy each other. Just like genetic copies, there's mimetic copies. That's why the meme exists. The meme, everyone, is not the picture itself. The meme is the replication of such image or habit. I can understand kind of how people can get jaded the older they get, especially at the rate and the speed that things are changing for people in our generation Y. You'll get to a certain point where the information overload eventually, right? And for a lot of older people, they stop. You get old when you lock in information, and that's your only way of life. Like, I'm gonna learn this, that's it. I'm gonna retire, I'm not gonna learn how to use a computer, nothing. That's when you get old. So like, now we gotta deal with this at such an expedient rate. All the new kids can just deal with hashtag or whatever and be cool. And all the older people don't really care anyway. They get flat panel TVs and they're amazed. So we're in this middle situation where we're like, well, damn, information overload. Tomorrow hashtag will be something else. Or
I think sort of our generation Y, we can sort of see both sides, like Chanel, as the saying goes.
Right.
Because like there's kind of no limit. We lived in both worlds, so we've lived through the creation of some of the things that people have now that are evolutions of things that we had then. And then we also seen what it's like before those things were in our lives, like especially when we get to the phone. And like I said, we've talked about these things like several times. I guess we're in a weird space where some of these things are actually being taken away from us now. So we only remember them in like video and things like that. Like I've seen, there's like movies and things where they're kind of not, they don't even care about what we had then. Like they just like, you'll see like touch screens in a time where we didn't even have those things, and like, what is this? Like, I can't wait till they start making movies about 2008. Like, what will 2008 look like? Well, they do have a couple. Michael Shannon was in this housing market movie. They also made The Big Short, also about the housing market. Basically, anything financially going down is going to be a movie set in 2008.
That's what we'll remember from those times.
The financial crash of 2008, yeah.
There's a period of that mid section of the 2000s that is kind of going to be, I believe, known as the lost years. Because there's a big section of that shit that we don't not use at all today, like mini discs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of failures at that time. certainly way more failures than like necessary, actually, because I seen what I see the other day, one of those iPods, and I'm like, was the iPod a failure? Or I think the iPod sort of set off the whole mini MP3 thing, but I think there's so many versions of that, of the iPod, the minis and the Zooms and things like that of that time, that kind of good. Like, if you look, it's like, where are they now? Like, there's no new iPod coming out. They just merged it with the phone. And I think sort of the staple of our time now is that everything gets merged with your phone. Everything is your phone. You used to have separate GPS. GPS is, you know, a certain thing, and now it's merged with your phone. Now it's like, okay, this is an evolution of where we were before.
Now, some scientists predicted that by maybe 2035, everybody will have at least 19 devices per person connected to the web. But if what you're saying is true, in that technology is actually consolidating itself into one or as few devices as possible.
You know, everybody wants the one and done. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's always been. You know, if at first it was your TV, your TV is this and that and the third and this, that and the third, and then now you can put your TV in your car, and then now you put your TV in your phone, and your phone, your computer on your phone, and TV on your phone, and your phone controls your lights in your house, and this, that, and the third. Your phone can do basically everything in your name something, cook. Your phone has options for that. Your phone is what they call your smartphone is sort of the center of your life. But I mean, this is a whole other discussion apart from the direction we'll go today. But we've talked about this a lot on Impractical Future, one of our older shows. If you guys go back and on SoundCloud or even on Audio Mac, you can listen to how we talk about where the future is heading, and that's sort of a little bit of the discussion we'll get into today. If you want to just hop on in there.
Yeah, I just want one last thing. I've said it at least 6 times. Mini disc, for anybody who is into audio recording, it was heralded as a storage device. It was very heralded amongst us engineers and the professional community, and then one day it disappeared. One day everybody stopped. You got a mini disc? Oh my god, if you have a mini disc, please let me know.
Another thing, just before we pass on to nothing but fads, I think that's the word. The word fad is something that is it's a staple of sort of the 2000s, where what used to be necessities and other things were, all right, this is for, I'm wearing this for business attire, I'm wearing this for this, that, and the third, or I use this for this, that, and the third. Even in the 90s, there wasn't so much of a fad phase. There was sort of still invention, because they were still trying to figure things out. But by the time we got to the 2000s, it was more like, okay, I have a TV, but I just want it flat because this is the fad now, and then everybody gets that. It's like, there's nothing wrong with my pants, but I'm going to cut holes in them because that's the fad. It doesn't help or hurt you. It's just something that's popular that everybody's doing. And when your fad influences your technology, and now you want your phone to do everything and be that one and done, I think that's where we start to get into where we are now, where what's going to happen when you just slap the phone out of their hand and they revert back to children, because there's nothing that they can do for themselves outside of that.
This, what we were just talking about was a whole nother show topic called "Got to Be More Careful," reverting, losing not knowing your shit once your phone is gone. You have to be more careful. Okay, go ahead.
Gotta be quicker than that. Question your morality. Writer visionary Philip K. Dick. Good times. How much we talked about this guy during our Impractical Future discussion was kind of enough, but he wrote many books about the future that became highly regarded in, films. In one of those books, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep, being the primary influence for 1982's Blade Runner. Just beautiful science fiction and things like that, where we explore big ideas. And in that film, we have a detective named Deckard who's charged with tracking down escape worker androids living among us in colonies on Mars called replicants. No spoilers, but a lot of the discussion in the film becomes what kind of things make us human and separate us from machines. And if machines can feel and think and act, and they have this desire to have life, or this desire to live, even though the replicants were in this fictional setting were set to live a certain length of life, a shelf life, do they have or do they deserve life? Do they have do they deserve happiness and things like that? And these ideas are revisited in our current 2017's Blade Runner sequel called Blade Runner 2049. And today we'll sort of talk about the short film nexus-dawn, Blade Runner 2036, set as sort of a prequel before the film. So it's 3 films by director Denis Villeneuve. I think he made Sicario, and he's hiring, or sort of asking, I guess, I don't know if he paid all these guys, but you get all of the film actors all together to film these in between, because there's such a huge length of time to filming these in between years between these characters. And the first short film released, like I said, is Nexus-Dawn, created by Ridley Scott's son, the original director from the first film. His son Scott, Luke Scott, is directing Nexus-Dawn. Well, who directed Nexus-Dawn? You can check it out on their YouTube channel. And in that, you see my man's Jared Leto as this creator, or rather the new creator of today's replicants, who sort of want to change the dynamic of what's going on with free will and some other things. And he's sort of solved a lot of problems in their world. Like, he's this huge, powerful guy, but like, people are wondering, all right, can he keep them under his control? So in the short film, which we will spoil, a couple little things, because it's not too long. It's a little bit of what we call extended media, but it gets me thinking about, free will, and, taking the rebellion away from his, creations, rather than having those dissonant ideas, their humanity per se. And the idea that, much like in iRobot, these robots have, you're saying that these robots have no feelings and therefore do not matter, this, that, and the third. They're tools. We created them. But, these robots, as seen in Nexus-Dawn, they feel pain, but they would act against their own self-interest to protect their creator. And, that gets me thinking about morality once again.
That, that's crazy in that, when you said that, because the immediate line that I thought is when he says to them, you remember hunger. And you basically would appease the guy who keeps that back from you. And in the matter of debating whether or not this is okay, whether or not we would use these machines. We talked a lot about our phone earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the very device in your hands could help you as a utility in moving forward as a human, as you've been evolving, right? But when we get into things like subconscious and we got series and shit like that, what happens when you're building relationships with that thing? So when he said that to me, and it also struck me too, because he he didn't sound kind of like, this is a tangent, but he didn't sound kind of like a replicant to you? What kind of mechanic himself?
Well, he is an affliction. His character, Neander Wallace, I think that's how you say his name. But dude has this like sort of an affliction where in Imperfect Future and some other shows, I think the VC Extra show we did about Victory Children, pick up Victory Children, now available on victorychildren.org or something like that. Anyways, on our shows, we sit up here and we talk about body modification. And when you look at Jared Leto's character in this, the dude is clearly modified himself to a certain degree. And, he wants them to, all right, I want to bring these replicants in a different type of way and serve us in a different type of way. Whereas I'm interested in, at this point, in immortality, and how can we use these things that I've created to sort of like get our immortality that we deserve. Now, I've already taken away hunger from you, but like maybe I'm going to take away death. Regardless of the moral consequences, like this dude is clearly like ready to break his like any type of moral code just to get what he wants.
Is what he wants, and is what he wants in the best interest of the people? I often ask that question when we talk about, as humans who invent things, security. We had an episode on, and when we talk about security measures and these different things, you think about, well, the more security there is, are you really protected? So is what he does in the best interest of the people? Is it completely selfish or selfless or selfish? Because using replicants as, or rather breaking your morality in order to see the betterment of or the evolution of your people, is that a bad thing? Wonder.
And when we get into like you said, when we talked about security on our show way back, when we talked about George Orwell 1984, we talked about monitoring people, when we talking about security, when we brought up how the government is sort of listening in on certain devices that we have, like our phones, and on the Google products, keeping tabs on where you've been and how you've been in certain algorithms, especially when you talk about Alexa and other things that are like really 100% keeping tabs on you at this point. It gets me thinking about sort of, are we already feeling the effects of people acting unbeholden to our self-interest, but sort of like saying, I'm doing this for what's called the greater good, or something beyond who we are as people.
Right.
And I think anything done for the greater good, and this is me personally, I don't believe in doing things for the greater good. I think anytime you lump in everything under, okay, this is the greater good situation, I think you're always going to make some type of weird fallacy, and then you set yourself up for like, all right, is this like a selfish reason or whatever? Because when you talk about back in the day in the 80s, around the time when this film was made, like you had 1982, the original film came out a year before Empire Strikes Back. You got Poltergeist, you got the Things, Star Trek, E.T., everything came out that year. Conan, Creepshow, Rocky 3. So you get a movie like this, like Blade Runner, you can see that like this was supposed to tap into that feeling of wonderment, but also be a warning for the times. George Orwell, 1984. This is actually the time that he was talking about back then. And then you see the parallel where, like, it wasn't exactly modern, but you're dealing with, big events. Like, you're dealing with the, the Soviet Union and other things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the time to have those feelings about, like, okay, are we safe in this world, and are people really acting for our best interests, the people around us.
Exactly. Our governments and our the establishments that we interact with daily, and those were heavy times for anti-establishment politics, actually.
E.T. E.T. himself is like, they're against the government, most of them filmed. But in the wake of, like, current events, right? Sort of to talk about the other end of morality, you got Hurricane Harvey and other certain disasters, Sierra Leone and other things. And once again, we have a certain sense of the climate of morality in the world. You got guys like Joel Osteen, who's established himself as a figure of Christ-like values, quote unquote, a leader of the faith, and as D.L. Hughley would put it, supposed to be a leader of his flock. There's controversy about whether he should have immediately opened up his doors to, help people, escape from the storm or have some place to stay. And, it makes you question the place morality really has in society. Like, what is true morality, and is this against our own self-interest or for the interests of others? To harken back to what I was saying about nexus-dawn, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but, like, the character in there feels pain but would act against their own self-interest to protect their creator. In sort of an amoral situation where that you created a being that would act against its own self-interest, you would say, okay, that would be technically wrong, right? But then you look at someone like Joel Osteen, who has set himself up as sort of this figure, like he's a figure who's supposed to hit the values of what he's saying is supposed to be this way, or you're supposed to, extend that type of, community leading services, but he's acting on his own self-interest, and we would call him wrong, once again. So it's like, okay, where can morality truly be just easily defined as, like, acting against or for your own self-interest, or does it vary case to case?
I'm usually asking myself this very question about how, for instance, the things that we do or say on the show or things like that, is it one person's wrong is another person's right. So we might say, oh, hey, I'm in the best interest of this, that, and the third, but the next person over might look at you and say, no, what has to survive? What has to be destroyed in order for something to be safe? What has to be destroyed in order for utopia, one person's version of utopia or everlasting peace, is implemented? So then you can't really, I don't think you can ever really balance that unless it's a group effort. And then that becomes anonymous. You're not on the front line saying, oh, hey, I'm trying to help. You're behind the scenes helping with a group of people, because there is nothing for you involved.
I think that's sort of like a key to sort of realize that, our morality isn't so much something that we can take on for ourselves, especially when you're trying to figure out what is moral. If you look to your own self, you probably won't find the clearest answer about what's moral. But at the same time, if you go with the group, you might be led in the wrong direction. So, that's why people have things like religion that's like, okay, this is an unshaking, value that I can follow for my, morality. 10 Commandments are very simple rules. Even the foundation of many governments are founded on, sort of similar values, of the Ten Commandments. Over the years and over thousands of cultures, a lot of them have, Hammurabi's law. Like, all of these are the same 10 sets of commandments, basically, that's all set up to, have these fundamental right and wrong situations going on. But, today we live in a time, like we were saying earlier, with cell phones and other things that are consolidated in words that we use that don't even apply to anything anymore. We just use them because we're aging out, we're becoming obsolete. So therefore, our morality has to shift with the times as well. The bedrock is of, all right, should Joel Osteen, open up his church, is a lot more complicated when we talk about, okay, well, what's the moral thing he should do with his property? Should he have to do that? Just because whatever. Because we got atheists in our society now who, like, well, they don't believe in God, so there's no moral authority for them to expect him to do certain things like that as well. So you can't have this you can, I guess, but should you have this overarching, set of laws against, guys like that who go against certain things? Or is there something that we owe more to, like, not trying to go against the interests of our species itself? Like, what can hurt all of us?
And that's the thing too. You can never really know, because, like, I asked if we're our byproducts of the planet too, right? We're natural organic beings. Is it everything that we do part of that? So, like, genetically modified food, cell phones, cars, isn't that a part of the natural? And we always have this debate with people, human beings, who say, oh man, that's not real, that's not natural, you shouldn't put that in your body. But again, someone designed it, and that person is also an extension of the nature that created them. So, and to pair that up with your moral, or your emotional bias in this situation, and you get an interesting chemical reaction. You have people like our Joel Osteens and our Jay-Z's, Beyonce, whoever, who stand up and we point at them and say, you are our ideal representation of our morals. Like, Joel Osteen is a figure who represents a massive amount of people, 17, however many people fit inside that building. They all look at him as the representation of their ideals and beliefs and things. So we point at these special people and expect them to do these things based on emotional bias. This person represents exactly morally.
But as a human being, on a human being level, you're just like, all right, well, that's his property. He can
exactly.
He can tell people how he can use his building or not, and he can, if he doesn't want people to use it, you really can't tell him nothing. But then we get into, like I said, our moral, or rather our divisive moral setup that we have in our world. And we were talking about this in Death Note, where, like, we don't, in America specifically, we don't have this one law, one true law that we go by, in terms of justice or in terms of, morals. Because, like I said, we got people who have different religions, have different races, have different beliefs that sort of contradict with one another. You got several different types of morality, where one person's morals can actually be the antithesis to somebody else's morals. Like you were saying earlier, there's never going to be a time in America where everybody is on the same page about something, unless it's against literally I'm trying to step away from using the word literally, but it's basically against our species as a whole. Like, that is sort of like a truth to us. Like, if it's putting ourselves in danger,
we need a Watchmen situation. And that usually happens in America. We have a very big responsive situation.
Hurricane Harvey is our sort of Watchmen situation. Because
something that everybody can agree on.
Last week we were talking about, races and things like that. Now we're talking about just people and like help your fellow man, out of the water. And like I find it interesting how we can have those big, come together moments, and we say, okay, faith in humanity restored, and go about our way. But like when we talk about the actual moral thing kicking, all of these people into action, it's sort of about self-actualization of like where we want to be at in terms of ourselves. We see other people down, we gotta pick them up, and that's sort of a moral thing to do, and we feel like that is what you're supposed to do. But if a guy was like, well, I just don't feel like doing this, that, and the third, we got to throw him under the bus because he's acting against what we believe to be our moral right. Joel Osteen felt like he didn't want to open his church, so now we got to throw him under the bus for not doing that because he's supposed to be with what we're with right now. And when we talking about the vegan idea, or like talking about anything going on with, okay, there are gases and smoking and all these other things that are actually killing the planet, if we extend that sort of thinking to those things, and we was like, okay, now we have a larger ball game where we're talking about morals and we're talking about what's right and what's wrong, and we extend past that point of just, okay, he's Joel Osteen and he doesn't open his church, and that's acting against the interests of humanity. Now we look at these other things. It was like, okay, now you want to push back against these things because now it doesn't envelop everybody. Everybody's like, well, I want to eat meat. Well, I want to do this, that, and the third. And, that is technically killing, and doing these amoral things that people may believe to be amoral. You have to question your morality at these points.
The fact that you can sue someone, even if you're not in the right, and win, says a lot about the moral compass of our people here.
When you consider that, and then you consider where morality is, or even what morality truly represents, you get stuck, because morality itself is a sort of upholding a standard of goodness. We get our eco-terrorists, we get this, that, and the third. We get our extremists, sure. But are they wrong morally? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to equate these things, but to a certain level. But you got to look at it that way. You got to say this pure extremist ideology of like, okay, if you don't go down with what I believe, now it's a jihad, right? Because then you got Islam, the war overseas, and Iran and Afghanistan and things like that, about certain laws and certain beliefs, especially with Israel and Palestine, with beliefs and certain moral, this is my moral, this is your morals, and now we gotta fight because one of us is right, or actually both of us are right, because we both believe in these things equally. And so all of these clashes and all these situations are set up because the degree of like what is the most extreme to our interests of our humanity based on our beliefs can clash with somebody else's. So yes, our Joel Osteens can be persecuted and held up at the same time. So yes, my man's in nexus-dawn, he can be acting in the interest of everybody in the Blade Runner universe, trying to save them, or uplift, or evolve the people. but at the expense of, some moral wrongs, as they call mad science.
It's a three-way step. You have to think, well, is it in the best interest and productive for myself? And then you say, is it in productive interest for my environment, immediate environment, the circle around you? And then you expand outward to the world and say, is it? And if those three things don't check off, then maybe you shouldn't be doing whatever it is you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it then becomes an act of selfishness.
The idea of having layers of ethics, I think having that, like a moldable sense of morality, that, there's levels to it, rather than this is like, okay, this is super strong, it's a spear, I'm gonna stab you with my morality situation going on, rather than, having it more of a book where it's like, okay, I have my strong ones in the back, and then, over there we have the different layers of things where I can peel them back at certain cruxes, especially when it talks about your strongest beliefs, which is like, death, rape, blah blah blah, down the line, where it acts against the interests of all humanity. And then you fold it back, it's like, okay, well, my people believe in this thing, and I don't want to kill this, that, and person, because that infringes on their, I fold back on the book, and infringes on their ability to live. You know what I'm saying? There's layers to these things where we can live by, a layered morality, rather than just a strong, okay, this is a knife, it will cut anybody going against it. And that's how a lot of people get in trouble about these things. When we get to like mad science and things where you're really breaking the laws of human rights, and just like pure just human rights, like at inalienable rights actually, of what people can and should endure, you're on the wrong side of that morality. But people get all broken up when they see like Palestine and Israel going at it, and they're like, all right, well, now you gotta pick a side, because one side has to be right, the other side has to be wrong.
And in that situation, Israel and Palestine is interesting too, because it also has to do with whether or not this is those people's rightful home, and they're trying to figure out how we can live in this place that is destined for us. And I mean, in America, again, we talk about these things, but America helped in the foundation of the state of Israel, right? So when
as a power,
that morality, there's a situation, there's a moral agenda where you say, hey, these people believe they should live here, they should be able to live here, and it's a conflict that's lasted for so very long, since the 40s, I believe. Israel's relatively new, everybody, you didn't know. But that begs that question, especially when your morality involves destroying the lives of another side, right?
Well, I mean, we get
protection.
I just want to interject the idea of good and evil. You know what I'm saying? It's the hardest thing in the world to set morality against, because each side, especially when you talk about eliminating another side, like when you talk about sides, you're antagonizing another set of people for what they believe. Now, put it to you like this: when we talk about Charlottesville, this is very controversial. All these, we got Israel, Palestine, and Charlottesville. Jesus, powder keg. But no, when you talk about, like for example, Charlottesville, you got racist
titties right there.
This whole thing when we talk about the Crusades back in the day, when they were out there killing, like it was like, thou shalt not kill, but we're gonna kill infidels. Like what? Like what's going on here?
In the name of Jesus.
Yeah,
they said Jesus take the wheel, and they went balls to the wall for that shit. Now that's devotion. That is moral devotion right there. in the name of the cross.
Yeah.
In the name of the cross, we are going to behead you.
Spanish Inquisition, like, we've got so many evidence of people just going, like, full, like, I guess full retard in terms of morality, where they may or may not be right.
Yeah.
But what you're doing at the expense of being right or being whatever, you're like, we get back to my man's Neander Wallace or Jared Leto's character, and like you gotta be you're sort of becoming a monster in order to uphold your idea of morality or your idea of what should happen. I think nobody should cross their own, moral code just to, like, well, I'm gonna do the Dr. Manhattan thing. I'm gonna blow up New York because I think that there are bad people here, this, that, and the third. I mean, that's not what happened, but you know what I'm saying? Like, something like that. Like, I wouldn't bomb, okay, we don't like North Korea, let's bomb them, and because they have bad people there, this, that, and the third, to that moral center of, like, okay, I'll be the one to take the sin upon myself and blow them all to smithereens, and the world would be a better place. Probably, who knows, indefinitely. But at the end of the day, what have you become in order to, establish your dominance over this, moral thing?
Well, I was just gonna say with that was, like, that's kind of what we get with North Korea flying a missile over Japan, or these situations, these high self-righteous situations where you feel like destroy the infidels and everything will be good. We have a big conversation with that now here in the States for anybody listening internationally with President 45, the big debate on that. So hypothetically, because we brought up now Blade Runner and Victory Children earlier when talking about future and how we sit, Generation Y, how we sit in between both worlds, how is it that you personally, if you had the keys and that was your decision and you had to choose between that old world or that the future, and it cost you to create some crazy technology, one, what would that technology be? Whether it's genetically modifying people or environmental shit, and would you do it if it meant that possibly someone else or a group of other people would have to suffer for this? Wait 1 second, I just want to preface that with, in the Foundation series, for everybody, for our readers, Isaac Asimov, in the Foundation series, Dr. Hari Seldon finds out that in the future, the empire or their civilization as they know it will be destroyed and there'll be a period of darkness. So he comes up with a plan to sort of not intentionally take over, but that is what ends up happening. And we get into that fascism conversation. So yeah, go ahead.
So when we start talking about, doing some crazy, like, this is basically uber terrorism, right? At the end of the day, any act that is for the self-interest of, self-imposed interest of morality is, to me, a act of terrorism. If you drop a nuke on half the world, like many of the Resident Evil series try to do, and try to hit everybody with the zombie virus, this, that, and the third, that is an act of terrorism. No matter what you believe, your moral right to be, and you may be right, you may be completely right, but you end up becoming the villain. Ra's al Ghul,
Captain America shows up to the beach demanding Hope Summers because the Phoenix Force is going to come destroy us. This guy, Ra's al Ghul, that we all have those debates, especially in comic books.
Anytime you get some dude who wants, or perfect example. There's a new movie out called Batman and Harley Quinn. Poison Ivy and Jason. What is this? Jason, the Floronic Man.
Woodrow?
Yeah, Woodrow. Jason Woodrow. The Floronic Man. They have this plan on turning every living being on the planet into plant people, and whether besides whether it's going to work or not, having that idea is like it's an act of terrorism. No matter how good you believe the world will be, it's an act of terrorism. You're acting against other people's interests to impose your belief. And even if you're acting upon a group of people, like you have a whole group of people that believe in what you believe, like if there was some type of ray gun that I can shoot into the sky, that someone was shoot into the sky and kill all handicapped people or something like that, and then you're like, well, now the world is all perfect people, like a Bond villain or something. Like, I don't like imperfect people. What was his name? Oh my god, which one? I think it was a man with the golden gun. I think that's the one it was. Yeah. Basically, he just like models and all these beautiful people, and he didn't really like. Basically, he was going to kill all the ugly people in the world, and you're like, dude, like, I guess that's cool, but like, morally, it's not gonna fly. This is an act of terrorism. Like, so would I do it? No.
But what if you didn't know? No. So what if it wasn't about so much that, like, you it's not genocidal or anything like that, but if that was a potential result, like, you could lessen the suffering, but there will be suffering. That's unavoidable.
It depends, because I have a lot of these thoughts. There's a lot of there's a lot of things in the world that I would call necessary evils, like such as not everybody being vegan. I prefer to eat meat. If you're vegan, I'm sorry, but I appreciate the fact that you don't eat meat. We each have our different values of what we think is cool. I just allow other people to exist in that. If I would have to pull a button that will actually entice some suffering, enact some type of suffering for a good reason, I might do it, but it depends on what it is. I think it's on a case-to-case basis, because there's those little paradoxical questions like, oh, would you would you suck a dick to save your mom type situations, where somebody will pose a question, hypothetical, in that sort of way, and you're like, oh, well, this is I will save my mom, whatever, or no matter what you think, it's in sort of like a paradox where you'll be right or wrong. You'll be doing something that will act against a certain interest of yours, not unless you actually like sucking dicks.
Here's it more focused. I like you said paradox. So if you could send 30,000 people back in time, right?
Okay.
But that the probability of that having an effect on anything, with all the paradoxes and calculations, that either this time will change that we live in and it will get worse, or B, those 30,000 people will die, or C, there's just something.
All right,
but that's
so
the way.
Not a lot of people know this, but I'm not a big fan of time travel, and it's one of the things that I hate talking about. But what I will say is, my belief of time travel is that time is unchangeable. Even if we were to cross said temporal boundaries, and this is out of pure spite, even if we were to cross those temporal boundaries and push things back a certain way, we wouldn't be able to change the time that we currently live in. The world won't fold in on itself. It'll just create an alternate reality that we'll never believe in. I can live in a Terminator world where I'm like desperately like shooting guns and like, okay, get to the time machine, and then we send a person back. I will never know if it worked or not. We'll do the experiment. Maybe it did work and they'll send them back to wherever, but the world that they create won't be the world that I'm already living in. The world I'm already living in is already linear. I believe in linear time because that's just logical.
But that's not the fun answer.
I will straight up die in that world, thinking that I sent somebody to a better place, even if I sent them to fucking hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's over. It's over. Days of Future Past. There's that scene where they break.
Gonna die anyway.
Yeah, the robots break in and stab Iceman and Sunspot and all these other guys, and then they get to the final scene and Blink is like, "Yeah, I'm going back to the past," and then she jumps back, and you're like, "Okay, well, we're just gonna die in the future, and you just go live out in your whole new world that you're gonna build in that other place, and you get a chance to try again." It's like when you're playing a video game and you get to that point where, like, all right, this is a live or die save or whatever. This is like, you can never go back to the save after this. What, go back to a save?
Would you go?
Would I go myself, or would I be? So instead of like sending somebody else, me go and live in another world?
Would you go? It doesn't matter about them. I'm saying, would you go with them? Would you go? Period. Would you go?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to that, I don't want to die in this world. I will leave. It doesn't matter. The point is, whether I change it or not, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. If they send, all right, we have a time machine, you send me back to the 70s, I'm going to live in the 70s and not care about what's happening in the future ever again. They can say, yeah, you're gonna talk to the senator and you're gonna get everything right. I'm like, yeah, sure I am. And I'll in the time machine and I'll be gone forever. I'll live out my life in Paris, just chilling and like, thank you, vacation. I afforded myself the chance to live out very well in the past and not have to deal with these robot people ever again.
That was actually the plot in Pax Romana. So if you don't mind me spoiling that real quick, for
the viewers, this is spoilers for Pax Romana, but go ahead.
Spoiler alert for Pax Romana, but it's much better if you read it. My paraphrasing doesn't do it justice. So, the Catholic Church is in danger of, or was in danger of dying. So in the future, the genetic Pope tells the young emperor the story of how they maintain dominance over their future. And this Catholic Church is in danger of dying in this past time. They recruit a bunch of soldiers, private military, to do this time travel mission. And when they go back, most of these military niggas go and have wives. They're doing everything else. And their team starts to fall apart because they feel that everyone is, or other people are not focused on the mission how they should be. And so,
why should they be?
They kill each other.
You said they killed each other?
They end up killing each other and going to war with each other. So you guys,
that's whack. There's no reason for them to fight. It's like, all right,
there is.
Like, you get there and then you're like, all right, cool. I guess maybe because they have this moral dilemma between each other. But you know what I'm saying? This is why I hate talking about time travel. It's like,
that's why I brought it up,
because you know. But you get to that point. You go back in time. You get to that point, and you're like, I'm here to save future lives, and that's my moral center, right? That's probably how a time traveler could look at it. Like when you talk about Terminator, these people aren't playing around. This is a live or die for people they care about. Because in Terminator, the rules to that, you can go back and forth, blah blah blah. You can change the future and you can go back to the time that you came from situation. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I think that's stupid, but whatever. The point is, in my belief of time travel, there is no, I can't ever go back to that no matter how much I try. There's only going back and then dying. because the future me will be in a situation. Like if I was to time travel me now to a week before, Denzel Washington's Deja Vu, if I was to jump back like that and then have the possibility of meeting myself, the me that went back in time is doomed to die because I'm from a world that will not be created yet. So the line they feed you is that, oh, anything you do will change that, change the world that, will affect this future. Yeah, I might be able to change what happens in this future, but I'm not gonna die. There's no paradox that's gonna kill me. I can touch myself and not die because I'm from a world that's older than the world that I'm hopping into. I'm like, all right, cool. No matter what, it's already happened, and I will still exist. I can slap myself. I can stab my younger self, and nothing will happen. Just the future him is dead. It's not me. I come from a world where I didn't die. You know what I'm saying? So I can kill my younger self, take his place.
That was the premise of Jet Li's The One. Where he except it was multi-dimensions.
Yeah, the one was multi-dimensional. He was hopping around trying to get
same
power.
Shit, time.
Yeah, time. But he was trying to get power from himself. No
one
one knows how. No one can even explain how. Because what if
90s logic?
What if there's a dude like, all right? Because you know the problem with The One. Not to anybody who's ever seen The One, Jet Li's The One. You like or hate the movie, there's a huge gap in that, right? So, in this version of reality, he has a wife, right? A wife
right.
Who he may or may not have a child with. If he has a child with that person, that child becomes the only version of that child in the whole timeline. So why is it hard to believe that child is not the most powerful being or whatever? And he's like, well, there has to be another one. Well, in the other ones, he's married to somebody else. This is the only one with that specific girlfriend. He's killed everybody else. This person has a son that is the only one, so shouldn't he already be the one? No, right? Because that will mess up your premise of your whole thing. And there you have it. I destroyed your belief in The One. Because time travel is an issue. Alright? Like, you don't understand. Like, this is one of the things that I hate the most in writing. I respect it when it's done in a way where it makes sense and you tie up all of your loose ends, but loose ends are inevitable in time travel because you can't cover everything. There will be something that you missed because you're like, well, I just want the story to be simple, but then you get over to this area where you're like, But
well, to be fair on Pax Romana, they don't go back, so it just after you finish the story, it tells you what the new timeline is. So it does the split and then how everything ends up as the new timeline. So I thought that was kind of neat with the little infographic included there, and then the way that they sped up the history. Like cell phone technology invented in 1612 or some shit like that. And at the end, he says, the genetic pope asks the little boy, he's like, what was your favorite part of the whole story? And the kid says, my favorite part of the whole story was that we did it all by 1441. He didn't give a fuck about none of that other shit.
Why is this a story? How can the boy know the time before the time before the time? Ow.
Because the genetic...
Ow.
Because the genetic pope in the new future, you had to read it. I don't want to spoil the best part of how...
Read Pax Romana. That's my man's.
Go read it. Yeah. Jonathan Hickman. And that's probably... Besides Grant Morrison, those are probably the other. Him, maybe Gail.
Whatever.
Gail's cool. She's more... Shit, alright, never mind. That's a tangent.
We're not going to talk about that right now. Because,
It's just comic styles and writing. That's all.
but like I said, to wrap up on ethics and sort of the people's beliefs and the questioning your morality, I think we had a show when we talk about skepticism and having a healthy amount of skepticism. I think that applies to your morality as well. Like, because thinking that what you believe is the only belief, that can only lead to bad things. Like, literally only lead to bad things, only lead to conflicts, and you actually acting against these things. Like, okay, I believe in this so strong, I'm gonna set people up, and I'm a, maybe nothing, you'll probably 99% of you won't do anything as crazy as nuking entire nations just because you believe,
But
a certain way. But that 1% will still do something that extreme. But you have smaller levels of that. So like I was saying, having a layered set of morality that you can peel back for certain occasions, I think it's good for you to be able to exist with one another and understand that you will never believe in the same things. And if you convert somebody to a thing, it's cool, but you would never believe in the same things.
You brought up the sliding scale earlier in morality, and the flip side of something not being aggressive in the form of that could be passive, where you become rigid in your sense of self-righteousness and morality, that you never see the sliding scale, because as times change, what we view as right or wrong sort of changes with the zeitgeist, with the thought space of the time. So clothing is different, music is different. You find yourself getting locked into place and stagnant, so that's your passive way of destroying yourself, or versus an aggressive way of expressing that moral rigidness.
I also think there's a flip side to where you want to have a layered morality, but you don't want to peel it back for everything. Your morality is your human center, the center of who you are as a person. If you peel that back for everything, you stand for nothing. And if you stand for nothing, you will become sort of a follower to everything. And it's weird. It's a weird thing where you have to have something to have the backbone of, when we build characters in writing, when we build characters, even in Blade Runner and things like that, when you build a character, your character has what they call a moral center, and that will lead your character through how his decisions will be thought about throughout the entire piece. If your character has a weak moral center, you know that he will be susceptible to changing his mind to this, that, and the third. If your character has a strong moral center, they won't waver from that, and that could possibly be a positive or a detriment to that character. That character strong willingness to be right or do the right thing can even get your character killed. Like, there's so many characters in media that are they're right, but it's them standing up for the right thing or being able to if only they just shut up about this, that, and the third, they would survive. Yeah, people in real life, this is what happens. Martin Luther King, if only he just not said this, that, and the third, but you have your moral center, you have what leads you, or your through line, as we call it, of your character that leads your every decision. And if you have like something like a religion pushing that, it's good to have a layered version of that for any religion, but having that as your center is a good place to start.
I can agree with that, but I think my final thing on it is going to actually be quite a paradox to what you've been talking about this entire last 5 minutes. It's from House of Leaves, and it says the function of a center was not only to orient balance and organize the structure. One cannot, in fact, conceive of an unorganized structure, but above all, to make sure that the organizing principle of the structure would limit what we might call the play of the structure. Now, That's exactly what you've been talking about, your character finding their center. By orienting and organizing the coherence of the system, the center of the structure permits the play of its elements inside the total form. And even today, the notion of a structure lacking any center represents the unthinkable itself. However, this is why classical thought concerning structure could say that the center is paradoxically within the structure and outside of it. The center is at the center of the totality, and yet since the center does not belong to the totality has its center elsewhere. The center is not the center.
Break it down for the people.
It's all a lie, and it's meaningless. Your moral center is not at all.
Yeah, your moral center is not a center. And I guess that was Basic Control, the show where we effectively break down various forms of media into relatable context, basically give it a control back to the viewers. My name is Aaron Ray, aka The Boss Ray, for all social media. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and ArtStation. As for my co-host, ADK, where can the people find you?
At ADK Lives. Those are the letters ADK Lives. I live online, bouncing all over the interwebs.
Follow us at Facebook at Puppy Guys Attack. Subscribe to us on YouTube at PG Attack, or email us at pgattack@gmail.com. Any questions, comments, hypotheticals, or advice you'd like to see addressed on the show, share and subscribe our videos. And if you have any questions about morality, or you want to correct us on our views on Palestine or anything else that may have triggered you today, please hit the comment section on YouTube, or hit us up at pgattack@gmail.com.